The following clips are from lectures that I have given. The first showing urban heat island effect, which shows that using this one particular tool, that it is in fact the case that it's hotter in parts of American cities where there are more people of color and minority communities, often by design.
How, for example, does city-level urban heat island, can it be mapped? Well, the answer is yes, and he puts it here, GC does, on the left side. And he also overlays it with, on the other side, you can see that these correspond here, yeah? And how can we get an instant kind of visual of what the relationship is to demographics, to income? So the metric here of annual day of the, I believe it's an average, but it's annual day in degrees Celsius, and the extent to which urban heat island is present there throughout the year is shown as the more urban heat island, the hotter it is, the more red it is, and the less, it's more green. So we go to Virginia, and let's try to see, let's just try to zoom in to Richmond. I think that Virginia, as you can see, it zooms it right in there for you. So we were just looking at that, right? Well, now let's take a closer look from what was in the New York Times article. So we see here that there is, and we kind of zoom in, or now we can kind of see that there's downtown, and there's the river. Remember that. And we see here what? What do we see? We see that Greater Urban Heat Island is just on the north side of the river, right? And that's, as you'll recall, right where those red-lined districts were. And as we go in deeper into the red, we see more minority population therein. There's a relationship between higher minority population or lower white population and urban heat island. Now, if I actually do a percentage of black population, let's just go ahead and load that. Does it just visually become much more evident? And we see kind of in this area here, which would be just north of the river, that cluster, what really kind of defines this cluster right here is high black population. As you see, high percentage black population. Right? The darker blue it is, the more on the right side, the higher the black population. And on the left side, we see that that's kind of where we see the most dense urban heat island effect occurring. And so again,
the EPA's EJ screen, or Environmental Justice Screening Tool, where, for example, in American cities, larger minority population areas are often more exposed to hazardous waste. We can see these by using similar kind of dual screen application that the EJ screen does. And here's how you use it.
Let's go right back to Richmond. Easy enough to find. Okay, again, hazardous waste proximity on this side. Pull that legend down. We see that the more red is the more hazardous waste proximity. See already that there's an area right here that's really exposed. Pull that legend down, and let's see here. Income, poverty, keep that category, but pull this down, and we're going to go to percent. Let's see, percent, we're going to go percent black, because that's the minority that is most prevalent in Richmond, I believe. Percent. Okay, there's percent black population below poverty level. What about percent percent black in general? Per capita income is quite useful as well, but we're just going to go And you get to choose percent household income, which is, we're going to get back to that in a little bit. All right, well, let's stick with percent Black population below poverty level, and then hit update map. So remember that the colors here will show the deeper the gray, I guess you can call that gray, the more Black population below poverty level. Kind of zoom out and we see that, well, yeah, that's the darkest would seem to be right here, which also coincides with where the greatest hazardous waste exposure is, right? And also noticed where on this side, the gray is where there's relatively less hazardous waste exposure, particularly when we go in this area up here in the northeast, right? And that's what's special about that area. Well, there's less low-income minorities. And how can we kind of assess that more? Well, let's just go per capita income and update the map. There's relatively high income people in this area, which is interesting. And that tells you that the relatively more wealthy are living right alongside the poor. But have a look here. See this block right here. It's that same precise area. See that along the river, that particularly high value real estate is, as riverfront property tends to be. But right here is where you might, if you were to do a case study on environmental racism, this is where you see the lowest per capita income and the highest, hazardous waste exposure. Something to look into.